Hello fellow humans and welcome to the top 5 best tier 10 tanks in 2023 in WoT Blitz. And it's obviously not the MX-30B. That is going to be part of the worst tier 10s, but for that, stay tuned. Now let's get into the best. So, we get to number 5 with the T50 Heavy. Why is it on this list? That's why. That is 4 seconds and I've done 1,200 damage, which is quite impressive. Do that again, we're at 2,400. Do that again, 3,600. That adds up quite fast. So this thing is very, very strong. You might think, yeah, but a 4005 has a bigger clip, a 50B has a bigger clip. Well, 50B is faster, but no, 50B is worse by quite a bit. So let's have a look. And you also have the shell reload boost. We can boost it to 1.8 seconds, which doesn't really make a difference at all, but I guess it helps. That's pretty damn good, and there's a 43 HP STB1 right there. So, this thing, I definitely recommend getting it. It's not the easiest tank to play, like basically if you're starting off, get a 60p, 100, whatever. I'll mention that later again. So, at this point, now what we're gonna do is good heat rounds. Got good heat rounds. Need good penetration. That 25, and that's 3.5k damage. Haven't even done anything yet. I peaked 3 times. That's 3.5k damage. That's the beauty of the Chieftain Heavy. You don't have to do much to get a lot. It is an absolute damage dealing monster machine. I definitely recommend picking it up. Now you also have something like a yaw. I don't really think that the yaw is quite as good. Obviously it has slightly better turret armor, despite the cupolas on top, but it only does 900 damage. So and I definitely recommend 3-shot gun on that tank. But I do think the Chieftain Heavy is quite a bit better than that. It's also better than a Kranwagen because, I mean, do you want to drive along at 2 kilometers an hour? I don't think so. Now, so that STB, what is going to be pretty damn annoying, and that 183 that is dead. Well, any dead 183 is a good 183, but not in this case. And the worst thing that can happen to you as a Chieftain Heavy driver is 1v1s, trades. Like, they get 1 shot, you get 1 shot. That's about the worst thing that can happen. Let's see if I can track him again and allow the Sheridan to possibly not kill him. That's exactly not what I wanted to happen here. Because then that is going to happen, and I am now dead. So, wonderful. Well done, Sheridan. But anyway, I'm gonna die now. See if I can possibly clip him here, but nope. But despite that, I did 5k damage. Like, just like that. This thing is insanely good. That's why it definitely deserves a spot on this list, because it's just absolutely insane at dealing damage. Number 4, we're going fast. Very, very fast. With the Leopard 1. The ultimate connoisseur's vehicle. Ultimate skill required to extract ultimate performance. Possibly the best gun in tier 10. Maybe the Badger, but fuck that thing. So, you have no armor. You have excellent mobility, and you have an excellent gun. Which means, if you don't need armor, if you're good enough to not need armor, this thing is gonna absolutely destroy absolutely everything. Now, accuracy. What is accuracy? It's gonna hit every single shot. If you aim, that is, which I rarely do. But like there. And you can also stay at a distance. This thing is pretty much good. Well, you shouldn't brawl with heavy tanks, but as long as it involves shooting anyone that isn't aiming at you, this is the best tank to get in that regard. Now, the problems start to arise when someone does, in fact, aim at you. Because then you have a real big problem, because you have absolutely no armor on this vehicle. Well, it's not quite true. It's not absolutely no armor. You can get bounces of this vehicle, especially the gun mantler. Likes to bounce shots here and there. However, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't have any armor at all. Now, this game happened a couple of months ago, actually, but it's just going to demonstrate you how much damage 2 Leopards can actually do. Now, the big problem of the Leopard is that it's dependent on your team being alive. If you have no team, you rarely have a Leopard. Right? Because you can run away, yes. However, Blitz maps are quite small, so they're going to catch you eventually. If you're like a 1v4, yeah, you're not going to have a great time. And, you know, if there's 4 people pushing you, you're just not going to have a great time at all. Which means, if you have a team, if they're alive, if they're gone, you're having a good time. Speaking of armor, there it is. It can happen. It's very unlikely, though. And now at this point, again, shooting at an IS-7, I can shoot 2 times before he shoots once. I can do more damage, because I have insanely high DPM with this vehicle. Which, yeah, now the T95 is mad. Because getting yourself into a bad position and then complaining about getting wrecked because of being in that bad position is cool. I mean, I do that sometimes. But, yeah. Anyway, that's a 3v3. That's a 6-2A. It's gonna... You don't have to aim at this thing. It just hits every shot. And yes, this is a Leo. It is a Leo. Brawling with heavy tanks is not what you do. It can work, because you have like 1,000 more DPM. But not recommended. So at this point, 3.7k damage. Fairly solid. You know, just drive around the map. Always look for the best opportunity. If you have all that map awareness. And now, I don't really care if he shoots me here, because, I mean, it's 1v3 after I kill him. Because they've got good heat rounds as well, so you can pin everything. The HE is solid too. So that leaves a lone IS-4 that is now tracked. I can shoot him in the back for pretty much 5k damage, so... This thing's good, but it's only good if the player that plays it is also good. So this thing, I only really recommend it if you're already very good. And if you are very good, this thing is going to be very good, and you're going to have a lot of fun in this thing. And now we get to number 3, with the 11-3, and I played this game literally 2 minutes ago, but the recording crashed, so here's the replay. Anyway, this thing is very good. This is the only game I've in fact played in this vehicle in a while, so you'll see why this thing is number 3. Now, you could also think about other tanks, but I didn't, because this thing is excellent. You only have 6 degrees of gun depression, which is the biggest downside of this vehicle, but then again, it's Soviet-inspired, where, you know, you don't need gun depression or crew comfort or it working, but this thing works, so that's good. Now, you do have pretty good straight line mobility. Don't really think about turning, because the longer a tank, the worse it turns. This thing turns pretty badly. It's something you want to watch out for. The armor is very decent, especially the turret. It's rounded, it's very well protected. The hull, it's flat, so if you wiggle it back and forth, you're going to have a good time. Most high penetration heat rounds are going to go straight through, though. Just like one Type 71, for example. So, it's happened. You have extremely high DPM. So if you only fire heat with this vehicle, and you have very good heat rounds, you still have more DPM than most other heavy tanks, which is quite impressive. However, you don't want to stick around in front of a 4005 for too long, because that's going to hurt. And there we go. Look at that absolute damage it can put up with this thing. And that is obviously very, very important, because if you're fighting medium tanks, you have higher DPM. And if you have fighting medium heavy tanks, you got 440 alpha damage, which is, for example, higher than that concept has. So you have extremely good damage and extremely good DPM at the same time, which is amazing. Bundle that with pretty solid armor and mobility, and you got a tank that I would rate very, very highly. Now, obviously, I don't want to really stick around here with the Concept 1B here, because that's sort of his element. And that's another thing that you always want to do. If you play a certain tank, if you play a certain type of tank, and then you can't play that certain type of tank, that's not the tank's problem. And it's also a lot about positioning. Where do you put it, right? If you put this thing in a place where it doesn't belong, it's not going to work. For example, that Concept B doesn't belong on a flat ground facing a tank that has 500 higher DPM and higher alpha damage. That doesn't belong there. Now this VK, he has a turret at the back, which means I can stay here, I can track him, just like that, and then I can get out, and let the Igloo deal with it. So that's going to be just about fine. That's 5,000 damage dealt already in 3 minutes, which is a lot. But it's going to get better. Unfortunately, like the Chieftain Heavy game, the team is not getting better. So, just like the VK's crew, who has basically nothing left. Ouch. That's my rear. And it still has some armor there. Obviously, don't peek with your ass. That's not a good idea. Unless you're the angry Connor, then you can ass peek. But, yeah. So, 6k, which is a lot. You see where this is going? You have a boatload of DPM. If you know how to use that DPM, no one's going to be able to beat you. That's how this thing goes. Now, in a 1v4 though, and you have 300 HP, and there's a 4005, you're not going to be able to do anything. So now, that leaves us with 6,950 damage, a tank. That is excellent, if played properly. At number 2, we have the Chieftain Mark 6. Why is that? Well, because it's overall still very good. You have 10 degrees of gun depression, you have excellent accuracy, you do have some form of HESH rounds with 110 millimeters of penetration, you have 3,200 base DPM, and you have fairly decent mobility and armor that is, if you know how to use it, also pretty damn strong. The hull on this is a bit weaker, however, it still works. Now, you could put also something like a Concept 1B in here. I think those two tanks are pretty much interchangeable, and basically you trade a bit of gun for a bit of armor. That's it. So you could put both in here, but I like the Chieftain more. Anyway, this thing is good. Why? Because if you know what you're doing, again, this list is about tank performance, not are you able to actually use that performance, right? If you're good, then you're gonna have a great time with this thing, but you might get an even 100, you might get a 60 TP if you start your journey into tier 10. This might not be a good entry vehicle, obviously. You might also have something like a Badger, which people consider OP, but the Badger is very one-dimensional and boring. Some people might like that, I don't. That's why it's never gonna be on this list. I mean, putting a tank destroyer on a top something list in my videos, that's not gonna happen. So, anyway, now we got 3,200 DPM here. And if we have a game like this, where the enemies are just not looking, then there's nothing they can do about it. I got very high DPM. If they have below 100 millimeters of armor, I can pen them with HE and do 500 damage. That's pretty nice. And now at this point, I know, they're all kind of boxed in. I'm still full HP. And that's the thing. If you want to do really well, and this might sound a bit dumb, but here's the thing. If you want to do really, really well, then you got to play not only against the enemy, but also against your team. Because your team is your extra hit points. If you use your team's hit points and not yours, you live longer. If you live longer, you do more damage. So that's just how that works. So 3.7k damage already at this point, and I haven't been shot at once, and now I will not be shot at either because this thing reloads very quickly and does have fairly good penetration. Now, the problem with this vehicle is its premium penetration. It's only 310 millimeters, and it's also APCR. That's not great. That's the huge weakness of this vehicle. While others may have 340 heat rounds, I think it's got a little 310, like an i7, which is weak. So, at this point, we're in a 4v4. That 60 TP is gonna die. And remember what I said. You don't want to use your own hit points unless you have to. And now, those two MXs are both quite low. And that vehicle, well, it's good when it's exactly frontal and when the enemy can't aim at the cupola. Other than that, not really. You might also think about something like a VK90. Not quite. Again, boring. Turret at the back. Not cool. Maybe top 10, definitely. But no further. Now we have an IS-4 that is pushing me, which is not great, and this is exactly what you want to avoid. Now at this point, I know the IS-4 fire. I know the E50M is the bigger threat. I kill the E50M because he's faster. He can get around, and then get at the MX because he's the easier target. Biggest threat, easier target than everything else. That's a solid game in a very, very solid tank. That also makes credits on top of that, which is great. So get it if you haven't already. Now we get to number 1 with the one and only great one, the E50M. This thing's been a main battle tank before main battle tanks even existed. If it existed, which it didn't. However, it is real in Blitz with 3,300 DPM, a fine-ish penetration of 245. It used to have 270, but they took that away. However, in turns, they gave it turret armor, so there's that. Excellent accuracy, aim time, 8 degrees of gun depression, and effective power-to-weight ratio of 27, with a weight of almost 70 tons, which is a lot. Which means this tank is not only having an excellent gun, it also has excellent mobility and excellent armor as well. Over 330 millimeters on the front plate. The turret, not as great. However, if you keep the tank moving back and forth, it's going to be very, very difficult to hit the relatively tiny face of the relatively flat turret. The sides are spaced, which means you can side scrape with it as well, and are relatively thick. And on top of that, because you're a very fast boy and you're a very fat boy, you can ram absolutely anything that is lighter than you, especially light tanks. You want to do 500 damage to a Vickers Light? This is the tank to do it with. It only loses out in the ramming category to the MX-50B. So, why is this the best tank in WoT Blitz? Well, and not the Chieftain. Well, the answer for that is quite simple. Premium penetration. If the Chieftain had premium penetration, it would be number 1. It's that simple. Now, this thing is good, and it's also a bit faster, and it is more fun, slightly. Chieftain does have the hash, which is good. Kind of hash. However, you bounce the 183, and this is a medium tank. That's why the E50M is number 1. Because it is absolutely insanely good. Now, there are tanks that are easier to play. There are tanks that you can get better results with. However, in terms of consistent delivery, there is going to be nothing that is going to be able to rival this vehicle. So, now we have a 3v3. We got Object 268 and we got an E. Not 5, because he's now dead. Now at this point, it's a 2v3. That's an object over there. I know where the 3 enemies are, and I'm thinking at this point, yeah, I don't want to fight that. Because here's the thing. If you're in a 1vx situation like this, you don't want to just charge in and give them their fight. You don't want to do that, right? You want to distance yourself and then pick your own fight. And now the E5 is being a great teammate, for the lack of better words. Now, the thing is, I know that object's dead, right? He's 1v3, he's going to die. I know he's dead, there's nothing I can do about that. And the thing is, the TVP is slightly faster than me. Those are 257 heavies. I don't want to fight that. Those are all autoloaders. And the easiest way to lose to autoloaders is to let them get close to you, right? It's to let them unload the entire clip into you. It's about the worst thing you can let happen. And again here, I'm not going to take a shot unless I can. There we go. Now, he's far away. I can peek single shot for single shot. I will never want to allow this guy to shoot me twice, right? And now the object's mad at me, which, I mean, I get it. However, at this point, I'm in a position they can't get at me. I can peek, they can shoot once. I disappear, I peek again when I'm reloaded, which means they can only shoot me when I choose to peek. They can't just unload the clip, and now the TVP does that, which doesn't help. Now, I'm very healthy still, but again, 150% heavy clip, and I'm a one-shot. And I don't have no idea what this TVP is doing right here. He's completely throwing this game away. Jesus. Yeah, and now we move on a bit. Let's skip this part. I find that this 57 heavy right here, you don't want him to get close to you just like that. But again, 6.6 seconds reload. I don't quite get it. I bounce off him, which is not good. But he bounces off me with heat rounds even, and that is 340 heat pen, which is very good. And now, the last remaining one-shot Chieftain Heavy. And he's dead. And that is why the E50M is currently, in my opinion, the best tier 10 in WoT Blitz. Because if you know how this tank works, if you know how to play the game, nobody will be able to beat you in this vehicle. Doesn't matter what tank they're playing. If you know how to play this thing, no one's gonna beat you.